How you doing, everybody? It's Wardy here, and we have a jam-packed Big Mets update segment getting into another late-night edition here, March 20th, 2025, shortly after the Mets just took care of business against the Nationals in their latest spring game, winning by a final score of 10-3. We'll get into all the key takeaways, headline, offensively and defensively, from guys like Luisangel Acuña's electric play, Brett the Met Baty continuing to look fantastic this spring, as both players now are absolutely destined to crack this Mets team. But the big question is, who is more likely to run away with second base, if one of them is going to, up until Jeff McNeil returns from his injury in the coming weeks. From there, we're going to get into guys like Torrens, and yes, Jose Siri. Everyone and their mother offensively tonight was standing out big time. It was batting practice against the Nationals, and pitching-wise, Senga was nothing short of fantastic. A truly dominant shortened outing there, as he and Senga Kranick were head-turning, to say the least, for fans, having a lot of reasons to be excited about not only their latest spring outings, but how they're both destined to hopefully kickstart what is going to be a fantastic 2025 Mets season. Yes, Senga Kranick is absolutely destined to crack this Mets bullpen, barring any drastic changes from now up until opening day. So much to get into, such little time, and yes, we are going to have the discussion on Edwin Diaz. What is going on with his velocity? Should you at all be concerned? We'll get into the pros, the cons, everything having to do with that topic in particular, and thank you so much in advance for smashing that like and subscribe on as your first time in, folks, for all the latest Mets coverage, spring training, regular season, postseason, off-season long here on the WardyNYM platform. Really does mean a lot. And let me know your initial reactions in the comments down below regarding all said players that we'll get into, if you agree, disagree with what we're about to break down. But folks, let's first start off with how this game started, because the Mets were on an offensive hitting spree in this matchup. They out-hit the Nationals in this matchup 13-7, doubling it up to say the least, and they had their offense pretty often here. While the Nationals did score the first technical run, which was not a earned run against Senga, it was an unearned run from a pass ball or so. We then see in the second, third, and fourth, the Mets poured on. They score 3 runs in the second. They score 2 in the third and 5th in the fourth. And the offensive party really got started with our guy that I'm very excited to get into, and Luisangel Acuña, everybody. Acuña was nothing short of fantastic today as well. He goes 2 for 5 with a pair of RBIs, poking one oppo that you see. And with just under a 270 average so far this spring, Acuña has exemplified every single quality that you would hope for in a young, high uprising hitter, and someone like himself who first made his debut last year for the Mets with Lindor going down with injury. Obviously performed pretty well, to say the least, in that limited sample size. And now, up until we found out the news with Jeff McNeil's injury, Acuña, while looking to have an impressive spring, was still probably a little bit on the outside looking in to crack this Mets roster, with the assumption that he would get everyday reps in AAA, where he wasn't all that great last year up until he was called up. But now with McNeil down, the Mets are going to truly have a platoon at the second base position to begin the year, with Brett the Met Baty being one of them and Luisangel Acuña being the other. Fully expect both of them to crack this Mets roster as of now, while also being in a platoon setting where you're going to have Acuña face more of a stern-handed matchup, mainly lefties, versus a guy like Baty who have faced mainly righties. Obviously, it'll fluctuate as the year starts and how the Mets and Carlos Mendoza deem best fit, but for now, Luisangel Acuña continues to hit his way and play his way both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball into this Mets roster to at minimum begin the 2025 season, which leads to a great question that I have for each and every one of you Mets fans. What is your 2025 expectation for Luisangel Acuña? 1, do you fully expect him to crack the roster? 2, how much playing time do you anticipate he'll get in the first couple weeks? And 3, do you think that with that limited playing time that he will run away with it and have the Mets in a great position where they have a tough decision to make for all the right reasons, because Acuña played so well and you can't warrant sending him down? What are the Mets going to do with the Swiss Army knife, and what is a lightning rod on the base pass, a tremendous glove in the infield, whether he's at short, third, second, it really doesn't matter, or what you're getting offensively? You might not get the power from his older brother Ronald, but you're getting some really good contact ability, going gap to gap, and again, turning singles into doubles with his eyes closed because of how fast Luisangel Acuña is. And for those that don't know, he was at least in the 95th percentile in sprint speed last year per Baseball Savant. So yeah, Acuña is a speed demon. He's going to bring a great base stealing threat, along with all the other great intangibles that I just broke down for each and every one of you. And the reason why Acuña has been such a hot topic this spring is because of that battle for that final utility role / second base. And now with that opportunity there, it's not only setting things up greatly for Luisangel Acuña, as it certainly is for Baty as well, as Baty had himself another solid day at the plate, going 1 for 3. Actually, one of the worst Mets hitters in live today, technically, in the sense that he didn't have a multi-hit game, and we saw a lot of Mets hitters do well on the multi-hit front that we'll get into shortly. But Baty 1 for 3 with an opposite field double off the wall, which you love to see, an RBI and a 341 average. Actually, he's back down to a 333 average. I apologize, and just over 1,000 OPS. I initially had it set that it was 1 for 3, but I forgot to adjust what was the average in the OPS, and I also realized I forgot to even adjust my typo from yesterday, where it should be saying average instead of RBI. So double typo day for Wardy, which means it's a late night Big Mets updates video that we're breaking down. Apologies for that, but thank you so much for the continued support. Baty not only looked great offensively today by going opposite field for power, but also that great web gem in which he made that turn himself. Again, Lindor with the flick, but it's all Baty on the sprint without a problem, gained the tag down with the one-legged throw. At least it looked that way. Let's see right here for a second. Yep, didn't even have his feet perfectly planted as he was leaning back to get the nice toss there to Alonso at first. Baty continues to look more than comfortable, more than fine at second base, which is exactly why he's not only a lock to make this Mets team, but he is what many fans believe is the best opportunity to crack that second base job and potentially run with it throughout the course of the season. Mets fans, continue to let me know your thoughts on Baty and what was nothing short of a fantastic day for him on the offensive end, because offensively there were many guys that stood out today for the Mets. And it wasn't just guys like Baty and Acuña that were certainly doing their part, but it was also guys that I can't get over how good he looked today. And that's going to be Mr. Luis Torrens, everybody. You're watching me in real time switch everything up, the graphics for you right now. And for good reason, because usually when I make these videos, I just have a player spotlight of like 1 or 2 players that I do. But no, we have a lot of guys that we got to talk about today, because when you score 10 runs and you do everything the Mets did, clearly you're doing something right, both offensively and defensively, if we're going to count pitching as a defensive aspect of things. But Torrens, he held his own, to say the least. A 3 for 3 day with a triple and 3 RBIs. Seriously, what didn't Luis Torrens do for the Mets? What was a great game calling Kodai Senga, after, even though Kodai looked a little shaky in the early goings, which led to that 1 unearned run, but otherwise he was very sharp, that we'll get into shortly. But Torrens did everything that you could hope for and then some. And for a guy who's prided himself on really stepping up for Francisco Alvarez, when the Mets traded for Torrens from the Yankees organization for $100,000 last year, he steps up right away with Alvarez going down with injury. And I don't really have much doubt that Torrens will be able to handle his own defensively, but my big question has been offensively. How much is that going to carry over for the Mets in an increased role to start the year, at least for the first number of weeks, as their predominant everyday catcher? And in the case of Torrens, he's shown his offensive upside, but we know that he has been a pretty much standard minor league player outside of his stint with the Mets last year. So when we talk about Torrens and his upside, it's fantastic to see him do what he did at the plate today, because if he can just be anywhere from, a 220, 250 average hitter or so with the Mets up until Alvarez comes back with injury, that's really all I could ask for. We can't rely on Torrens to be much of an offensive output for us when we have so many other guys to already rely on in the lineup. But if he can come out, throw out runners at second base, which we know Torrens does better than Alvy currently, and has done at a great clip for the Mets since being acquired from the Yankees organization. Now the big question with Torrens is, how is he going to handle starting the year as a Mets starting catcher? And is this one of those things where we're going to get consistent play with him throughout the year, or is he going to get exposed a bit in that increased playing time right away, even with a normal spring training, versus when he was traded the Mets midseason last year and kind of just ran with it with the adrenaline right away and just never looked back? Hopefully it's more of the same with Torrens. I'm optimistic with him, but I'm also bearing in mind to set my expectations maybe a little bit lower than what they were to begin last year in the great run that was Luis Torrens and this Metropolitan team. But Torrens wasn't the only standout either, because as I said, there were a lot of key offensive standouts in this game, and there's one that stands out most to me, not named Mr. Luis Angel Acuña, and that's going to be our guy in Jose Siri. Jose Siri, what a game for Jose. Just the other day, we were breaking down the latest golden sombrero that Jose Siri unfortunately suffered, striking out a total of 4 times or so in one of the latest Mets spring games. And the big question with Siri, and I actually apologize, folks, that graphic for Siri is inaccurate. It should be saying 3 for 5, not 3 for 3. I did update it, but for whatever reason, it just decided not to update. And maybe that's because I was getting this all set up last minute for you guys to post as soon as I possibly could after the game. But Jose Siri went technically 3 for 5 in this game, but he started the game 3 for 3, ripped himself a double and had 3 RBIs. Was fantastic in doing so. Siri, just for some context, folks, is now batting right around the Mendoza line at 194 this spring, but with a just under 800 OPS. That is as Jose Siri as a get. The guy was batting a $133 a couple nights ago. Now he's just under the Mendoza line, and Siri is going to be so boom or bust on the offensive end, but he can steal bags. He has some of the best outfield defense in all Major League Baseball, both with his speed and with that arm. He can throw you out comfortably from deep in right field all the way there at third base with his eyes closed as well. But Siri, what I love so much about him is not only the vibes that he brings, which is a great clubhouse character and certainly great for these Los Mets when we look at more of the Dominican, the Puerto Rican, the Venezuelan, the Colombian, the what have you, when we look at these Los Mets, if you know what I'm saying here. And not only his relationship right away, that was great to bode well with Juan Soto when many thought it would be the opposite because of them kind of going back and forth last year on rival teams, the Rays and the Yankees. Never thought for a second that they wouldn't hit it off, and they certainly have. And now Siri, who is not only a fantastic clubhouse character, but a guy that is uber athletic, can steal bags for you constantly, and really has all the makings of being what could be a fantastic player for the Mets this year, and they can just work on that contact ability a little bit more. It's hard with a free swinger like him, but listen, the Mets were able to get adjustments out of Javi Baez in 2021, in part because of Francisco Lindor being his best bud and really helping him out. But Baez had the best run of his career over that limited sample size, batting right around 300 with north of 1,000 OPS, at least 900 from the Mets throughout that stretch, and great defense. And Baez has been a shell of that player since then, since he signed that multi-year deal with the Detroit Tigers. So Jose Siri, thank you so much, baby. What a fantastic outing it was for him on the offensive end, as it was for guys in Luis Torrens and many others. Because even Jesse Winker went 0 for 2, but got on with a run scored thanks to a walk. Alexander Canario, who came in as a pinch hitter for Winker at DH for his final 2 at-bats, he got on with a hit, which was great, as Canario is still trying to compete for a roster spot. We'll see if that in fact happens or not. And then offensively outside that, both Juan Soto recorded a hit and Pete Alonso recorded a hit. Both had a run scored too. So, and even De Los Santos, who came in later in the game to hit for Juan Soto, recorded a pinch hit. Everyone and their mother was hitting batting practice against the southpaw starter there for the Nationals, who I'm going to butcher his last name, but it's spelled Ogasa Wara, Japanese pitcher that they acquired this past offseason. If I'm not mistaken, the first Japanese player ever signed in Nationals history, and he's going to finish his spring training with just under a 12 ERA, as the Mets recorded 8 hits, 8 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 Ks, and it makes sense considering he's a soft-tossing southpaw that the Mets were really able to sit on and hit for opposite way, as well as guys like Alonso did. We saw Acuña do it. We saw Torrens do it. Literally everyone hit for opposite field today against that southpaw. But great stuff to see for the Mets on the offensive end, everybody. And I want to know your further reactions, because when we talk about Acuña and Baty in particular, just as we did in a video breakdown yesterday, so make sure, 2 days ago rather, check it out in case you haven't. Yesterday's video was more on Baty's latest great performance from their spring training game yesterday, where they performed well, and we have some key takeaways there that are separate from this, including guys like David Pearson, who looks sharp, and others in the bullpen too. Not AJ Minter, but others as well. And we're going to highlight the bullpen here in a second, but before we talk more on the pitching end, I just want to reiterate to every single Mets fan how ecstatic I am for Mets opening day. I can't get over the fact that we're just now about a week away, everybody. And in case you haven't been following along the platform, get buckled up and get ready for what we're going to provide for you. It's going to be post-game coverage pretty much after every single Mets game this year. There will be some games where I may defer away from it if it's literally a snooze fest, and that's where we will only do a video like this recapping things, but you will get probably a live show and or video every single day throughout the entire regular season. And we're going to be doing fantastic watch parties I'm so excited about, both on YouTube and on a separate platform that I'm excited to announce shortly. So once we have that all official, I will be announcing it here over the next week, so be on the lookout for it, folks. And we do have some other fantastic news, not just regarding the Mets, but Major League Baseball as a whole, that I'll be sharing with you guys in the coming days, as we're oh so close now from opening day. But folks, now let's get set and get ready to talk about everything that transpired on the pitching end in the Mets 10-3 victory over the Nationals. And before we move forward in today's video, everybody, let's first hear a quick word from our sponsor that I'm so excited to break down, that being at Mando. Mando, the all-purpose, all-body deodorant, which I'm so excited to get into. Why, you might ask, Wardy? That's because this is a product that I've been using well before they even reached out and we've connected here to get a sponsorship deal done. Shout out to all you amazing Mets fans who helped make this possible, that we are reaching highs here on the platform, that we're getting deals with Mando. Love their whole body deodorant. And if you guys don't know Mando, let me enlighten you folks, because they have a plethora of products that, mind you, are all clinically proven to block odor all day and control your body odor up to not 24, not 48, but yes, you guessed it, 72 hours. This has been a massive game changer from the time that I've used their product over this past year versus the previous deodorants that I've used. And mind you, this is not just for pits. This can be for behind your knees. This can be for, you know, the areas that we're not going to talk about. Wherever you feel like you need deodorant, that is where Mando comes into play. And with their starter pack, which I have in my possession to a degree, folks, you have a lot of the other amazing products that they have, including their normal whole body deodorant Mando stick. We have their Mando wipes, which I absolutely love. Where were these back when I was in middle school and high school, especially, where I'm sweating bullets throughout the day just because I'm sitting there stressed doing classwork and stuff? These would have been awesome to have for my pits throughout the entire school day. I digress. We got the whole body deodorant as well, which is fantastic. We have the Mando body wash here, which is so good, and one of my favorites as well, the whole body deodorant, but this time in the liquid form here. Again, all the Mando products, I cannot say enough glowing things about them. Sponsor or not, I will continue to promote this brand, and for great reason, everybody. So now I'm calling on each and every one of you. If you guys want to get in on Mando, listen up to the following, folks, and please sign up today. How do you sign up? It's by controlling the body odor anywhere with @shop.mando and get $5 off your starter pack. Mind you, that's over 40% off with our amazing promo code. You guessed it, Wardy, W-A-R-D-Y, at shopmando.com. Shout out to Mando once more for being an awesome sponsor on the platform, and thank you, Mets fans, for making it happen. Alrighty, folks, now let's talk about the pitching, because there was a lot of fun takeaways on the pitching end, and please ignore the Acuña graphic just for a second, as I have to interchange as we're doing this live in real time, and that's fine, because I got all the time in the world to stall here, and I don't really have to stall, because I just have to tell you guys that Kodai Senga is ready. Kodai Senga, who we have been contemplating for a little bit as to what exactly we're getting. No, folks, I think it is abundantly clear by now that when it comes to the regular season, Kodai Senga is going to be as ready as we could hope he'd be. And actually, let me make sure that I have this, and I actually apologize once more. Senga, where are you, brother? Okay, there we go. There's the player temp. Fantastic. So there's Kodai Senga, everybody. What a great day it was for him. Not going to complain whatsoever on what we got there. That is exactly what you could hope for from Kodai. But now let's show you guys the Kodai clips as well, because that's probably why you clicked on this one, didn't you? You want to see Kodai Senga carving up everyone and their mother. 6 Ks that we saw in this one. Never going to complain about that. Not entirely sure exactly why this is the wrong stat line. So I apologize for that, everybody. Just bear with me. I thought I had these all set, but it appears not. Let's see if I can pull up the proper Kodai Senga here. Kodai, where are you, baby? Come on, Kodai. Well, if I can't pull it up, I apologize, folks, but I did have another Kodai Senga template made for you guys. I think this was just the reality of trying to cram as much in a video as possible. Kodai Senga stat line is not as follows. Ignore the one down below, please. What actually transpired was 3.2 innings of 1 earned run ball, 0 earned runs, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. The one you're seeing here must have been from a previous outing of his earlier this spring, but even though the stat line is not accurate, the highlights certainly are. So let's get into what stood out so much about Kodai Senga in this outing today. And Kodai, you know, said himself he felt good really on differentiating what to work with, what not. And we're actually going to hear from Kodai himself here in just a second on his key takeaways. But again, please ignore the stat line down below. That is inaccurate. It was 3.2 scoreless innings, 1 unearned run, 1 unearned run allowed. That's it. no earned runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, had the ghost fork working, had the fastball touching 97 plus, had more command and more control of his pitches. And there were some questions with Senga as to, is he going to be even ready for opening day? What are we getting from him? Well, the great news now is that Senga will pitch one more time before he's out there for his April 1st start. And yes, you heard that correctly. Kodai Senga will be officially pitching on April 1st. That is when it's going to happen for Kodai. And the case of Senga, he is going to be pitching after that Houston Astros series because the Mets are going to have a three-headed monster of right-handers in any form or fashion. Clay Holmes, Canning, McGill. That's more than likely what's going to be. And they're purposely doing that because, one, they want to face the righty-heavy lineup of the Astros. And B, they want to make sure that both Peterson and Senga are kind of rested up and aligned the way that they are. So Senga will get one more opportunity to throw this week on the backfields in Port St. Lucie, and then he will be officially set for April 1st when he makes his season debut. And hopefully, knock on wood, God willing, we get a healthy Kodai Senga this year because, man, oh man, do the Mets need it. The same way that the Mets need to make sure that their bullpen is a strength for them this year. And there's definitely a standout when we look at this Mets bullpen for guys that aren't even going to crack the bullpen this year, but have so much to offer that you have to be excited about when they do eventually crack this Mets team, what they're going to provide. And there was a guy last year for the Mets that was off to a great spring training, but sadly just couldn't put it all together because of his unfortunate injury that he sustained halfway through spring. And that is the homegrown talent in the sense that he grew up a Mets fan, and Max Kranick. Fast forward a year later, everybody, Max Kranick is absolutely destined to be a part of this Mets bullpen to officially begin the year. And here's exactly why. 11.1 innings, 9 hits, 1 walk, 2 earned runs, 14 strikeouts, and a 1.59 ERA this spring. Yeah, that's going to play big time. Kranick only had 1 bad outing this spring, and that was his previous one. So great to see him bounce back today, going 2 shutty, allowing just 1 hit, no walks, a pair of strikeouts. Max Kranick, who has a very diverse arsenal of at least 3, 4, 5 pitches in there. And Kranick not only looking great with the velocity where he sits mid to high 90s, which I absolutely love, but a guy that has a really good amount of bite and swing and miss on his off-speed of breaking pitches, in which he has been an analytics darling so far this spring. Everyone from TJ Stats, a pitch profiler that usually breaking down on X, have been speaking glowingly of him, and for great reasons. So Max Kranick, very happy to see how he has looked so far this spring training. It's been even better getting to know him on the personal side of things as I've been able to build a relationship with him over the past year. Got to meet Max Kranick at Mets Amazing Day, in which he joined our live show for a couple minutes, interacted with him briefly there in spring training. I was even heckling him a little bit before he went out there and had a very sharp outing for the Mets 3 outings ago, because that was in West Palm against the Astros when McGill was fantastic, and then he piggybacked off of McGill without a problem. So Max Kranick, thank you so much for blossoming the way that you have. Thank you so much for not being a Met, as the Mets acquired him off of waivers a year plus ago from the Pirates organization, originally from the Scranton, PA area, which isn't far from me, as another Mets fan who resides in Pennsylvania. I grew up a dire Mets fan who was taken a shave many times from his parents growing up. So what a great story it is for Max Kranick, and now it looks like his dream will become a reality. A man who was on the Mets playoff roster in the NLDS last year in 2024, but never got an opportunity to pitch. Not only is he going to now get an opportunity to pitch for the Mets this year, but he may very well solidify himself as one of their more formidable and sharp options in that bullpen throughout the entire course of the 162. Buckle up and get ready, everybody. Max Kranick is officially here, and I'm so happy to say that. So happy to say that. Max Kranick, man, oh man, what, no better guy to root for this spring. I mean, Tyler Zuber is a great story too, where the Mets acquired via trade from the Rays last year, who was out of Major League Baseball for a number of years, almost hung him up, then went back into indie ball, was pitching lights out for the Long Island Ducks in indie ball. Then he gets picked up by the Rays, eventually traded to the Mets, and Zuber, who's been working the Mets pitching lab, has also had a very sharp spring. He gave the Mets 2 innings today as well, did allow 1 earned run and 2 hits, but a 1.17 ERA this spring will certainly play. Jose Budo got hit a little bit as well. He didn't have a great outing. He didn't walk anybody, struck out a pair, but gave up 3 hits and allowed 1 earned run in the process. Budo had a 3.18 ERA at the time recording this one. Again, it's spring. You can take it with a grain of salt. It can mean nothing or everything to you, but I do think when it comes to pitchers, it's important to just make notes sometimes, depending on, are they fine-tuning their arsenals? Are they heavily utilizing their fastball, or maybe deviating away from their fastball because they just want to go about things differently? Like, I think when we look at starters and relievers and how they go about their game in spring training, it's important because they vary so much, especially especially if they're competing for a role versus if they have one established and then they're really just fine-tuning their arsenal and saying, okay, I'm going to throw a heavy curveball today. We're not really going to throw the 4-seam much. I just want to see how my curveball is going to look today and how I'm feeling about it. Whatever it's going to be, it varies pitcher to pitcher, but in the case of guys like Kodai Senga, like Max Kranick, it has been great to see not only the progress, but especially in the case of Senga, him fine-tuning some things and now finding the success that he's more confident and looking for this spring. And speaking of Kodai Senga, everybody, we have some key quotes to hear from both Kodai as well as Carlos Mendoza himself. So let's go ahead and do exactly that.
まあ自分のいいとこ悪いとこ、まあ全部分かりましたし、いい登板になったことは間違いないかなと思います。
Yeah, it was a good outing. I got a lot out of it. I know I was able to figure out what was good.
Now this I found pretty funny. When asked more specifically about Senga, like what worked, what didn't, this is what he had to say.
まあ自分が何をしたら良くて、自分が何をしたらダメなのかっていうところが分かったっていう。
He was able to figure out. I was able to figure out what I need to do to be good and what happens when I'm not good.
Mechanics, just mechanics.
Adjustments.
Just mechanics.
Mechanically.
Mechanics.
What works for him and what doesn't.
Kodai's so meticulous and he doesn't reveal anything. Have you guys noticed that? Nothing. Like he will do everything in his power to not reveal what's going on like with his arsenal, at least in the public eye. Even though we usually find these things out obviously through the media or, you know, schmucks like myself that are paying a little bit too close of attention when we attend spring training games and the backfields. Regardless though, happy to see Kodai looking happy, feeling good, and getting set for opening day for 2025. But here is what Carlos Mendoza had to say about him that I'm excited to share.
Pitches, and then it was a good day of work for him. I thought the first couple of innings he was a little off. You know, command was off, and it looked like he didn't have the best feel for his pitches. And then the third inning and the fourth inning, he was completely opposite. Like he was pretty nasty. You know, the way the ball was coming out, I think he touched 96. But then he threw a really good sliders. The split was really good. Like all of his pitches, there was a lot of swing and misses there. Like completely two different outings. You know, the first couple of innings were finding, you know, getting a feel for his pitches, and then the third and the fourth inning, pretty nasty, like I said. He's on a mission. You know, this is a guy that wants to stay healthy because of what he went through last year. He feels like he's a big part. He knows he's a big part of this team, and I see a guy that he's having fun. Last year he went down early, and it was frustrating for him. Now you could see a smile on his face, like the conversations that we're having with him on a daily basis. There's a good feedback coming from him. So that's what I learned the most.
Alrighty, folks, now let's get into a discussion on Edwin Diaz. But before we do, see this? See this guy right here? That's Elian Soto, the man who curbed the Mets a couple years ago after we thought we were signing Juan Soto's younger brother. No, last minute he switches, he signs with the Nationals after Soto obviously had a heavy input, Juan that being. But Elian, who actually got at least one at-bat today against the Mets, against his older brother Juan, who, mind you, Soto initially left the game early because he was done after 3 or 4 at-bats, but he actually stayed after the fact to make sure that he could see Elian. So pretty cool full circle moment for the family. And like Juan, I hope to see Elian in a Mets uniform down the line, which means that he's had great success and he's due for a payday in Flushing, Queens. But now, folks, let's get into the Edwin Diaz talk. And Edwin, we're actually going to get into, originally, let's start with the quote here from Trevor May. I think that one's important. If I could pull it up for you guys, give me 1 second. That's if we're going to be able to find him. Brandon Nimmo was looking good today. He was on the backfield today getting at bats in, which is great to see, especially after he had a very good day, a multi-hit game yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, while in the corner outfield. It's never going to complain about that. But we should have You know, let's just go straight to SNY for it because I thought I had it saved. I guess not. I apologize, everybody. But I was planning to show you what Trevor May has to say because Trevor May was on SNY tonight. And when talking on Edwin Diaz and the velocity, he had his choice words. So here's what they are.
It's hard to get the juices flowing and the adrenaline going in spring. It's always an issue for all of us. He's a hard thrower, but it comes down to what that velo is. If we're talking 93s, 94s, 95s, 94s average in the major leagues now. We can't have him hanging out there, but it is encouraging seeing it kind of bump back up in that second outing, especially back-to-back. So I'm not panicking, but it is something to pay attention to. It's hard to get.
So, love Trevor May, first and foremost, friend of the channel. We've had him on before and won't be the last time. May giving, again, proper analysis, especially as a former teammate of Edwin's and as someone who's a recently retired MLB reliever. And we know when we look at the velocity with Edwin that it caused a little bit of an early stir so far this spring with some fans at least that were like, oh my goodness gracious, why is Edwin Diaz not necessarily the Edwin Diaz that we expect? But here's the thing. This isn't the first rodeo with Edwin when it comes to stuff like this. And secondly, no one should at all be concerned. And this goes directly in hand with an article that Anthony Como dropped a day ago that honestly wasn't, in the best faith. And we'll explain exactly why that is. Shout out to our guy, Isaac Groffman here, our pitching contributor on the platform, who's going to do the breakdown for us as he quoted Anthony Como's article yesterday talking about the velocity, should you be concerned or not. And Isaac says, I have a few issues with this article. Why Mets fans should not be panicking. And it's a fantastic breakdown that we're going to break down here together. Shout out to you, Isaac. I'm sure you're seeing this somewhere. But as you guys can see, the side-by-side here for spring of 2024 to spring of 2025 there for Edwin Diaz. And that side-by-side is important when we evaluate Edwin Diaz and his mechanics along with his velocity. Because, yes, Edwin Diaz has seen a drop in his velocity and stuff in his first three spring outings. No, I'm not concerned. And he's going down to break down, that he's down at least 3 with the velo per these stats from TJ Stats. First, this is an incredibly small sample to suggest in any way that this could be a permanent thing that will change who Diaz is as a pitcher is ridiculous in his opinion. He's very confident in Diaz's abilities. And as we know, we saw Edwin touch 101 in the playoffs last year. We know he has it in the tank when he wants to unleash it, and that makes sense. And as you see from here, it's entirely possible that the days of Diaz sitting 99 with his fastball as he did the Timmy Trumpet Dream season of 22 are gone forever. See, that is a comment that I would be equally bothered by if I'm Isaac, especially as one who evaluates pitching as much as he does. We see here, I analyzed a video of his top fastball in spring of 2024 and 2025, increased counter rotation, and a slight change in a forearm angle for 2025. He also goes on to further break down in this different starting position, more knee over toe, less back hip tension in 2025, overall more compact in 2025, which should lead to more success with said velocity. These are small mechanical changes that could affect velo, but we cannot say for sure until we have a larger sample. And spring pitchers need to ramp up and they may try new things. That's absolutely true. Another issue that Isaac personally had with this piece was the implication that control is more important than velocity. This chart shows how important velo is. Also Stuff Plus, which averages on 100. So if you're above 100 on Stuff Plus, that means you're above league average for that pitch, versus if you're below league average, below 100, you're below league average, just like WRC Plus, same exact kind of thing, if you guys know what I'm saying there. Has consistently been one of the top predictors of pitcher success. So that's why he feels very good. And this chart they broke down going back in November on where Edwin Diaz stands, especially when looking at the control and velocity. Yes, it's possible that Diaz has lost velocity, and it wouldn't shock me if he lost at least a little bit, given he coming back from injury a couple years ago and he's not getting any younger, but we need to wait until the regular season starts to know for sure. His fastball average as low as 96.9 in April 2024, but he was still hitting 101 by October, and that's 1,000% true as Isaac clipped this from last year, them celebrating as Diaz shut the door there at 101. Just absolutely electric. So shout out to Isaac for that great breakdown. I appreciate that. So he's pretty much saying, don't buy into it yet. Don't buy into being a nervous Nelly just at this moment. Let's give it some time. Let's wait until we get into the regular season and evaluate from there. I think that's the absolute best thing you should do in the case of Edwin Diaz. So Mets fans, halt the panic if you have any. We've seen these velo dips with many relievers. It does not mean that's going to be an issue or a reoccurring thing to happen either. But if it does happen, and if it is an issue, then we will properly have those discussions when they are best fit. Until then, everybody, that's going to do it for our latest Big Mets Update segment. I hope you guys did, in fact, enjoy. If you did, please let us know all your key takeaways in the comments down below. And be on the lookout for more Mets content all spring training, regular season, postseason, offseason long here on the WardyNYM platform. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.